Ave Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. The Lord said, "Woe to you, Pharisees! You pay tithes of mint and rue and of every garden herb, but you pay no attention to judgment and to love for God. These you should have done without overlooking the others. Woe to you, Pharisees! You love the seat of honor in synagogues and greetings in marketplaces. Woe to you! You are like unseen graves over which people unknowingly walk." Then one of the scholars of the law said to him in reply, "Teacher, by saying this you are insulting us too." And he said, "Woe also to you, scholars of the law! You impose on people burdens hard to carry, but you yourselves do not lift one finger to touch them." The Gospel of the Lord.
This morning, the feast we celebrate is the feast of Saint Callistus Pope. And it's interesting that he got to his place as Pope with many twists and turns and detours. And to make a long story short, through a tangled way, there he was. After being a guardian and administrator of the catacombs, he was called upon with his talents to become the Pope and Bishop of Rome. And I was thinking, it reminded me this morning about someone I met a while ago who his life had taken many twists and turns. And all of a sudden, he started asking himself, what am I going to do when I grow up? And that's when I met him, in his 60s, asking that question, what am I going to do when I grow up? Which I thought was peculiar. And he had many twists and turns in his own life, and he decided that he had to do something about it finally. And one of the things that put him over the edge was this reading from St. Paul to the Galatians. He said, where it says here, the fruits of the Spirit, and the fruits and the works of the flesh. Notice it says works of the flesh and fruit of the Spirit. And so this guy who I had met, he was doing the works of the flesh. And this list that's here pretty much identified what he had been doing in his life and who he was. Immorality, impurity, licentiousness, idolatry, sorcery, hatred, rivalry, jealousies, outbursts of fury, and selfishness, dissensions, factions, occasions of envy, drinking bouts, orgies, and the like. I would say the term selfishness pretty much pulls all of this together, because this represents, now St. Paul uses the works. So this represents a person who is working at being selfish in their life. It's all about me. On the other hand, St. Paul calls out the fruits of the Spirit. He says, in contrast, the fruit of the Spirit. So the fruit of the Spirit is something that grows in us as a result of a work being done on us by God. God, through the power of His Holy Spirit working on us, bears a fruit. And this is what St. Paul describes: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. I don't know about you, but the people who could be identified with the fruit of the Spirit, they seem to be the people I would like hanging around with the most and associating with the most. Not because of my own selfishness, but because they would help me become selfless as they are. So this young man I was dealing with young in his 60s, praise you, Jesus. He decided that this is what he wanted for his life. And he said, Father, how do I do this? And I said, the fruit of the Spirit comes from God. And he's most encountered in Jesus for us. And so you need to come to Jesus. He, as we say, was having his come to Jesus moment. And so he decided he was going to come back to his faith and work on making the fruit of the Spirit his life. And from him, I learned that a good meter on how you're doing in your faith and how you're doing in your prayer life is how are these things growing. We might not have them all worked out to perfection, but the way these things are growing and the fact that we're attentive to letting these things grow in our lives reveals something about what is growing in us. And perhaps if you want to grow up to get to heaven, the fruit of the Spirit is a great place to find growth and peace and union with Christ.
Regina Celi, letare, alleluia, qui aquae meruisti portare, alleluia, resurrexit sicut dixit, alleluia, ora pro nobis Deum, alleluia.